podcast. My name is Ben.
And I'm Johnny Bear here.
and Mama would say that my name is Baba Boucher.
Ah, for fuck's sake, there's two of them this time. They are Jake and Derek. Derek has joined us tonight because he is taking over our podcast, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to drive the show tonight. So, Derek, why don't you tell him real quick what our topic is?
So our topic today, since I'm such a true crime fan, and I like paranormal stuff as well, I decided to do something that kind of incorporates both of them, mostly just because of a conspiracy theory kind of angle to it. But it's called the Dyatlov Pass incident.
Yeah, motherfucker.
I like this story. So, yep, that's what we're going to do today. We'll get right to it here in a second. But first, if you enjoy our show, do not forget to share it and tell a friend about us. We really appreciate it. It really helps us grow. You've been doing a lot lately, and we thank you very much for that. Second announcement. We had a listener who chose to remain anonymous send us in their personal paranormal stories. So at the end of this episode, listen all the way through after the music plays for a second. You will find it there. And I think that's it, unless you guys got anything to add.
Yes, I do. I have something to add. So we are still growing on the Facebook, and I just want to give a thanks to all the fresh meat on our Facebook. So thank you guys. And thanks for all the listens, downloads. Thanks for the support. Love you guys.
All right, then.
And always remember that you can comment, subscribe to, and make your own suggestions on the Facebook page.
That is correct.
And the website. And the other thing that only Ben has control of.
We got a lot more than that.
Oh, and Apple iTunes and
We got Instagram.
and oh yeah, and there's an Instagram which Jake needs to stop. Never mind. We've already had to talk about that. Okay, Benjamin. But the way that I would like to do this, if it's okay with you guys, I don't care if it is. It's my show now. What's gonna happen, or what I would like to have happen, is since I enjoy your guys' commentary so much, this is gonna be like more or less an open discussion, if that's okay with you guys.
All right.
So at any point, Jake or Ben, if you guys would like to interject or ask a question or anything, or if I don't cover something, or if you guys just want to pause and have a happy little story about that strange alien that shoots a box out of its penis or whatever it was.
Huh?
What was it? It was the something box. Anyways.
For fuck's sake, that was your episode, dude.
Mine?
Box out of its penis?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it came out of his penis, but it was definitely accompanying him.
Oh.
Joe Bob in the box, bud. Joe Bob in the box.
Joe Bob in the box.
Yeah, and there's that funny picture on the Facebook.
Yeah, definitely not a bluegrass band.
No, not at all. Not one banjo in sight.
Did we look inside the box?
Maybe it was in the spaceship.
All right. With all that being said, here's my long list of notes.
Jeez.
Yeah, don't worry about it, Jake.
Good to see you work hard.
Hey, don't worry. I literally passed high school like this. So, the incident occurred between February 1st and February 2nd of 1959. Yep, I know. And it took place on the northern Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union.
Soviet Union. Messed up place.
Yeah. So, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but one of the theories behind this stuff is a little bit of espionage as well. There's an espionage theory behind it. But so the basic idea of this incident is what happened was 9 Soviet hikers from Ural Polytech Institution. They had to pass. They were grade 2 hikers, and so they were very close to becoming grade 3 hikers. And in order to become a grade 3 hiker, you had to do a 300-kilometer traverse of a certain amount of space or whatever in order to get your grade 3. But they were also certified, like I don't know, they worked with ski somethings. So they were they had a ski tour experience, and yeah, so they were pretty well versed in hiking and exploration and things of that nature. And of course, they were going to a college for said shit.
Yes, they were not anywhere close to novice at this particular endeavor.
Exactly. That's the thing that I'm trying to drive home. That these people, they knew what they were doing. Now, granted, they were all young. There was only one person involved who was over 30 years old, but there was a plethora of experience in this endeavor. Jake's killing me over here. So, it was formed.
Continue, please.
Thank you. So it was a skiing expedition across.
Wish you weren't so fucking awkward, bud.
It's gonna turn into a roast pretty quick. The leader of it was Igor Dyatlov, and he was a 23-year-old radio engineer. And like I said, they were all students at a Ural Polytechnical Institute. And so he assembled 9 members. It was originally 10, but he assembled 9 members of his peers, 8 men, 2 women, to go and complete this expedition so they could get the grade 3 in their hiking. And so what had happened was they arrived to this little godforsaken town in the middle of the night by train, jump on a truck, head however far north, get to the last known settlement before their expedition. They got their papers and their little expedition card that told them what trails and stuff that they're going to go and hike on. And then the 29th or 30th of January, that's when their expedition began. At one point in between the 30th and 31st, they had rolled up into this set of woods right below the base of like one of the inclines. The weather had started getting a little bit bad. They began pressing north, started hiking further up, getting into altitude, and that's where they decided to set up their base camp. And so now everything was documented in their journals, in photographs, and a whole bunch of other shit, notes that they had been taken. At one point, they had even jokingly drawn up a newspaper. They were making little play newspapers while they were hiking as well. They get up into the set of woods, start going north. I think they made it like 1.8 kilometers or something. Weather had started getting bad. And rather than go and retreat back to the woods where there was a little bit more coverage to protect them from the weather, they set up a tent, a 9-person tent, up there at the base of like this cliff on the north side of the Ural Mountains. So that takes us to that's in February 1st. And between February 1st and February 2nd, some crazy shit happens. So the 12th of February was when they were supposed to send telegram or whatever back home to their people and let them know that they had completed the trek safely. The 12th comes and goes. Nobody's worried. Things aren't up to speed at that point.
Not to mention the fact that like delays happen. So they pick a day, and then it's like, they pick a day and they say, okay, we'll be back around this day. But you give them a few just in case.
And Igor had told that to one of his colleagues. Well, he was like, listen, it's probably not going to actually happen the 12th. It'll probably be sometime later. So when the 12th came and passed, they weren't worried. It wasn't until the 20th of February where people started getting worried.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the families actually were like, hey, something's wrong. Go and find them. So they go out and they go and search. They follow the trek. Boop, 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 boop. Takes them up all the way up to where their base camp was. Okay. And so now the tent is in, to say the least, in order of disarray. The tent's collapsed. Okay. But the tent is also cut from the inside. And there are 9 tracks coming out from 9 different people, and they're all heading down to where these woods were. 4 of the bodies are found. So, or excuse me, 3 of the bodies are found right then and there. Okay. And they're all found at the base of this this Siberian fir or Siberian pine, one of the two. And one of the interesting things, I mean, of course they're dead, but they don't find the other 6 until 3 months later.
Yeah, after the snow melted.
So they find them 3 months later. But the strange thing, they find these people, okay, and there's remnants of what would be a fire, but also 15 meters up from the ground, these branches are broken off. Okay, so 15 meters is what? It's like
45 feet.
yeah.
That's
So
way
all
up there.
these fucking branches are all broken, everything else. So time comes and passes. They go and they search some more. And they end up finding the rest, or at least the rest of the most of everybody. 4 others are found. Then there are 2 that aren't found until later, and those 2 are like the most well prepared, but they're like basically cuddling when they're found. So the cause of death and the conclusion of the whole thing, the conclusion of the thing is this: it was a compelling natural force.
Which is a real fancy way to say we don't fucking know.
Exactly. So 6 of them were confirmed to have died from hypothermia. This is where it gets a little weird.
That makes sense. It's fucking February or in fucking
Yes. The temperature was between negative 15 degrees and negative 20
Is that Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit. I did the math. Don't worry. Now, 2 of them are dead from chest trauma. One's dead from a fractured skull. So now this is where things get a little bit weirder. The impact that it said that those ones were killed with was equivalent to being hit with a car.
Yeah, like a 35-mile-an-hour crash, if I remember right.
Listen, I found this interesting website that's actually called Dyatlov and it lists out basically the corner fucking notes for
Mhm.
everybody. And so like on one of them, it's like ribs 4, 5, 7, and 8. On the right side, ribs 4, 6, 7, 8. On the left side are all fractured. The fractured skull is like a caved in skull on the left side of the head. It's like completely caved in. Now, the fun part is this: 3 of them, I think 3 of them were found face down in a fucking creek. Now, that's okay. I get that. But 2 of them are missing both their eyes. One of them is missing their tongue. And one of them's got their eyebrows missing. So the ones in the creek, there's significant soft tissue damage. But other than that, they're saying hypothermia, right? Some sort of compelling natural force. And one of the things that they talked about, which they think is what got them, the theories are including of this: an avalanche catabolic wind. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard those words, but I don't know what it is.
So basically, the best way I can describe this is because of the change in altitude, it's almost like a downburst. So it causes a hurricane force like wind to shoot downward, whatever. It shoots a shitload of wind down a slope of a mountain, causing an avalanche. Okay. So that's one theory. Another theory: they're attacked by an animal. I get it. Of course, they died of hypothermia, so they're like, oh, hypothermia is probably what got them. Fair enough. Another one is infrasound-induced panic. Are you familiar with that?
I am.
Okay. So that's like all that fucking low town
Mhm.
fucking volume shit. Everybody loses their fucking mind, runs away. Next theory, well, we're going to have to blame the fucking commies, aren't we?
Well, yeah. Duh.
Well, duh. These motherfuckers. So,
this is America. It's always the damn commies.
so, so in 2019, the Russians actually reopened all this stuff. And they're say, hey, we're going to take another peek at it. And by
Allegedly.
so in 2020, they released these results and they're like, hey, listen, it was definitely an avalanche. That's what happened. And they were quoted in saying it wasn't a panic. It was a heroic struggle of survival. So now I was having a conversation earlier today because I was talking about the importance of being able to track. Now, granted, in today's society, to a bunch of people, tracking is not necessarily an important thing. But if you grew up in the woods or ever tried to, or if you've shot a fucking deer or anything, tracking is extremely important. You have to know what the footprints mean. You have to know, you know, you got to be able to almost relive the story by looking at the tracks. And so one of the things that was very strange when they found this tent, number one, the tent's collapsed. Okay. But it's not collapsed at a horizontal angle.
Yeah, it's more straight down.
More straight down, correct. So if there's this gale force wind, because even one of the theories was, okay, maybe the wind blew one of these motherfuckers away and the other 8 went and chased after him. I shit you not, that's a theory. But then they're saying, oh yeah, but if the wind did that, then why wouldn't the tent go anywhere? They're like, fuck, you got us. My bad.
There's another thing that you forgot to mention. None of these people were fully dressed. Not a one of them.
Oh, I was getting to that, Ben.
So if somebody got blown away, you'd think at least that guy would be dressed.
Okay, which leads me to something. So the results of this is as follows. Tent's collapsed. There's 9 sets of tracks leading away. So now none of these tracks indicate a panic.
Right.
Nobody's fucking running away.
Nope.
There's clothes inside the tent.
Mm-hmm.
And like you just stated, these people were very underdressed for the weather. Now, most of them did not have more than a shoe on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
They were barefoot in stockings. They were not in their fucking ski jackets. 2 of them were found in ski jackets. Everybody else, not so much. Sweaters, things of that nature. Some of them didn't even have a fucking hat on. And yet they walked calmly away. Which goes back to the avalanche theory. Okay, so if there's a fucking avalanche, what happens in an avalanche, boys?
You get buried by snow.
You get buried by snow. Jacob Dean, how do you find footprints underneath snow?
I don't know.
You don't.
Tracking dogs.
Bernese mountain dogs? You uncover the snow gently to
Right.
reveal.
Bernese
Right.
mountain dogs.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Huh?
It kind of don't work like that.
Sure they do. Compressed snow. That'll stay.
If
How do
there
you think
had
they
been
find
an
fossils?
avalanche,
It's like a plaster cast of like Bigfoot's foot,
It is.
just under snow.
right?
You know.
You just got to blow on it real gentle. That's it, right there.
So, anyways, so long story short, these people, they're found completely underdressed, and they're found out in the snow, and everybody's like, well, what the fuck happened? So then they start looking at the results of some of the things that, you know, were contained in the tent. In 2 of the diary logs, they'd kept speaking about the Mansi people. So they were talking about these strange characters that they were finding on trees.
Mhm.
So the Mansi people or Mansi people or whatever it is, they were these reindeer herders that were native to the land. And so one of the theories was that somehow the hikers had stumbled upon their sacred ground. And these people were like, you know what? Fuck y'all, we gonna kill you. Now there's only one problem with that. How many sets of footprints were there, Jake?
I wasn't paying attention.
There was 9. In order to kill somebody, there's got to be more somebodies to kill the other somebodies. Am I wrong?
They had snowshoes.
Snowshoes are still leaving an impression.
Not enough.
There are reindeer herders, Derek. Reindeer can fucking fly, bud.
That's true. He's got a point.
Hold on. Let me hold on. Let me put that down. Let me put that down on the list of theories. Santa Claus.
Okay, my theories of what went cattywampus was A, orgy gone wrong.
Hold on. Now that's actually a theory as well. Some people assumed that there was some sort of sexual relationship going on between some of the males and one of the females. They got lost in jealous rage and decided to kill each other. Problem with that though, everybody exited the tent and walked away calmly.
All right.
Other problem with that, I don't give a shit how fucking mad you are in your jealous rage. You are not gonna not go back for your goddamn coat when you start to get hypothermic.
Actually, advanced stages of hypothermia, you start feeling warm.
Yeah, but you get real fucking cold before that. And if the
Maybe
only
they walk
thing,
too far.
the only thing they weren't that far away.
No, they were less than 1.5 kilometers.
They were in sight
Kill 'em.
of the fucking tent.
They were.
All right. Well, my next theory, it goes to the missing eyebrow thing. Waxing gone wrong. You don't leave all your clothes on for waxing, so that explains that part. The person who got their eyebrows waxed got pissed, walked off, and threw a little temper tantrum, and everyone walks calmly after them, trying to coax them back into going into the tent. And it's just this giant stubborn rage where they're like, well, if you're not going in, I'm not going in. And then they start plucking out their own eyeballs with spoons. So shaved eyebrows feels better, or waxed eyebrows, my bad. Someone gets real hungry, so they start tonsil hockeying. And, well, you know how your teeth chatter when you get cold? A tongue got bitten off. Also, I'd just like to state, if any of our listeners are deaf, Derek's been doing this whole thing in sign language. So
I talk with my hands. Talk with my hands. I'm sorry.
So real quick, I'm gonna throw a little bit at this missing eyes thing.
Hit me.
Ravens, crows, whichever one they have in that area. The first thing they eat is the eyes. The eyebrow thing, they'll pluck at them, little hairs there, and the tongue freezes after the skin and shit. So if they can get in there and get it, they'll rip it out.
So now I would agree with you on that. But also what I would agree with is this. I would think that if there were any animals that are involved with this, I mean, typically most animals that are scavengers or predators for that matter, they will go after the internal organs, typically the liver.
Crows can only do that once something else has opened it up, though. Especially if it's frozen. Crows, they're too, like crows and ravens, it would take them like 7 days to peck through a frozen stomach to get there. The eyes are immediately accessible.
Even if they're face down in a creek?
I think those are different people.
I don't think so.
Maybe I'm wrong.
there's bears. It's the Soviet.
Yeah, but the thing is a bear would have ate all of them.
Right.
Like a bear, any animal is like not gonna waste the good fucking free meal that is.
But that's my theory about like the missing eyes tongue thing is it was like crows, ravens. But anyway.
Okay. Well, then I'm gonna throw another weird thing for you at this. Now, if you want, actually, I want because I'm just gonna go through this kind of. I'll do this really quick. This is just kind of some of the autopsy shit. Okay.
I think I know what it was.
What, Jake?
So, theory 3 for Jake. The garden moose.
God damn it, we done solved it.
Right there. Just
Mystery
like that.
solved.
Garden moose.
Shut the show down. That's it. That's what we came here to do.
Dude, we finally solved the biggest mystery. Though we did not solve the Russian mystery, we solved the biggest mystery.
Yep.
The garden moose.
Like eyeballs, tongues, eyebrows.
You don't know we don't.
fornicating with clothing.
Okay. So for this particular gentleman, the complexion of the deceased has been described as brown purple. So that's just his body color. And I'm going to get back to there's later reports of people who visited the funerals and stuff and said some weird shit. But like this, and again, this is like the autopsy shit. The body was still making efforts to fight the freezing at the time of the death. The hypothermic death cases have significantly more urine and bladder, blah, 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 blah. So hypothermia, we got, and like this lists off everything. Like, for instance, bruises on the forehead, diffuse bleeding in the right temporal and occipital region due to damage to the temporal muscle, bruise around left temporal bone, tip of the nose is missing, no trace of blood, meaning it was bitten, most probably by animal post-mortem. The deceased was found face up, frostbitten ears, portion of the epidermis from the right hand is found in the mouth of the deceased. So, cause of death, hypothermia. This one over here, there were no internal injuries, blah, blah, blah. Cause of death, hypothermia. Now, this is one of the females. Cause of death, hypothermia due to violent accident. Medical examination shows, and this just goes back for the jealous rage thing. Shows that the female was not active at the time, was not sexually active at the time of her death. Hemorrhages and temporal muscles. This is the dude with the cracked skull, by the way. Yeah, but all of the people were found, within eyeshot of the tent.
Mm-hmm.
One of the strangest things was the fact that the tent was cut out from the inside.
Yeah, that it don't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, if you're in the middle of a nice warm tent, just cuddling the shit out of each other, what point is there to cut the motherfucker open and start running, half naked down a fucking mountain?
So one theory that I've heard about that is that like maybe something happened with the flue on their wood stove and the tent like filled with smoke, right?
Mhm.
So they couldn't see the door, but somebody had a hold of a knife. They just cut a fucking slit. Everybody went out the slit, thinking, it's safer outside if the tent's about to catch fire. Problem with that is after a few minutes, you're going to realize, oh, it's just smoky, and go back in and get your fucking clothes.
Right. Also, it's important to note that some of them, so the ones that were found underneath the pine tree, some of them actually had burnt clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like, not, significantly burnt, but like charred, like burnt shit. Like one dude, his sock had looked like it had been in the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the ones that were found later, the reason that they started determining who had died first is because some of them actually were wearing clothing that the others were wearing.
Right. That they took off of their dead comrades, yes.
And so that kind of helped them figure out the timeline of, God damn. Okay. But anyways, so there's a bunch of fucking theories on the rest of this shit, right? So some of these theories include aliens, of course, Soviet involvement, of course, espionage bullshit, yes,
Mm-hmm.
Bigfoot, and then, like I said, the Mansi people. So when things had started getting around, I'm gonna guess that the Soviets were not necessarily at the greatest terms with the Mansi people because, like I said, in their journals and stuff, they had said, "Oh, we're seeing like these strange caricatures on caricatures." Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Characters or whatever. There's these strange fucking letters, and we're seeing them all over the place, and they're Mansi, and we know that. So, several of the Mansi people were actually interrogated.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no proof ever found that any of these people had anything to do with it.
Right. And like you said, if they found the footprints of the people that left the fucking tent, they should be able to find some sort of track evidence that someone or something else was there. And they didn't.
So yeah. And so in the journal it says this. Much was made about the presence of Mansi dwellings in the vicinity of the hikers' tents. One of the quotes from the journal was, "We often see Mansi signs on the trail. I wonder what they write about." Another one said Mansi writings appear on trees, all sorts of obscure, mysterious characters. But all this shit has been debunked, mostly because there was a huge investigation into it, and these people had nothing to do with it. Now we're going on to Bigfoot. So, of course, if these people go missing or people look like they've been into a what?
They go missing in the mountains. It's got to be Bigfoot.
It's a fucking commie yeti, buddy.
It's that damn
Okay.
Sam Squatch.
There's only one thing that's able to induce trauma on people, like being hit by a car, and that's the fist of a Bigfoot and a garden moose, apparently.
That checks out.
So now, now, the hikers, they were writing. One of them was writing a parody newspaper, which contained the line, "The Yeti lives in the northern Urals near Mount Atorton." And one of the first photographs that was taken from the hikers, the negative actually did show a dark humanoid-like figure that seemed to be skulking by some trees.
Mm-hmm. I have seen that, and you're right. It shows that. But that's all it shows, and yeah, good luck. I mean, if you look at that picture and you want to see a Bigfoot, you can see a Bigfoot. If you look
But
at
if
it,
you want to see a person,
if you look at it and you want to see a person dressed in fur winter clothing, you see a person in fur winter clothing. That's
so you don't think it was Bigfoot?
again, no track evidence.
So fair enough. Then that brings me back to the avalanche. So the reason that the avalanche thing I don't think is necessarily all that likely, it's because in this location there were no signs, like obvious signs of an avalanche. Now,
Right.
also, over 100 expeditions have been held since the incident, none of which have ever reported any sort of avalanche-like shit. The
Podcat.
podcat, it's the podcat. Yeah, so that's the okay. And now this takes us back. One of the people who was actually like involved, his name's Yuri. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Kuntsevich.
Whoa.
I'll buy it.
Kuntsevich. Maybe that sounds better. So he was 12 years old at the time. He attended 5 of the hikers' funerals, and he had made a note that it looked like they had burned skin. Now there is an interesting note too. Also on the autopsy shit, radiation testing was done on some of the clothing, and at least on one of the hikers, there was radiation present.
Yeah, that guy's job, he worked in radiation.
Which one?
So, whichever guy that was.
Igor?
Yeah,
Because he was involved with radio communications
Yep.
and things of that nature.
Yep, which brought him into contact with various radiations, and the levels that they found were higher than normal, but not anywhere near lethal.
Well, of course it's not going to be near lethal. He was running around. But correct me if I'm wrong, but don't aliens send off some sort of radiation? Like, can't you go and test a corn from a crop circle and see that it's radiated?
Shit, yeah.
There are many stories that do include such details, yes.
Which
Especially from the Soviet.
Which brings me to this point. Are we being safe with our fucking popcorn bin?
Well, obviously not. We're just letting the aliens squish it and draw pictures in it all the time.
Okay. And then we're throwing it in our fucking microwaves? That's how they're going to take over, bud. Nobody's going to back me on this theory.
No, I'm trying to poke a hole in it, and I got nothing.
Nothing at all. Okay, so we're all going with the poison popcorn theory.
Poison popcorn, aliens.
Drink the
take over
Kool-Aid.
fucking Earth.
Eat the popcorn, boys.
That's 2 goddamn mysteries we've solved right here today, boys.
Radiation contamination.
Okay. And so the other big thing in this whole ordeal was that at least by 12 others there were lights being shown in the sky. Like light spheres, whatever you want to call them.
Were they red?
Honest, Couldn't tell you. I just know that they were light spheres located in the sky near the location of the hikers on the day of the incident,
What year was this?
1959.
This was back when the world was black and white, so we wouldn't know if it was.
That's not true. It was color at this point.
You make my.
I'm just glad we got sound somewhere
I mean,
around
right?
the 20s. So anyway, so there's a lot of theories that it's aliens that came by, caused mass delusion between all of these hikers, where they ran out completely barefoot, got lost somewhere. Now, 4 of them had enough sense to sit there and try to make a fire.
Right. But not enough to go back to the fucking tent.
Not enough to go back to the tent.
That's it. I trip on that every single time.
So the other ones that were found, the other 3, was it? Yeah. So there was 3 of them that were found that looked as though they had gone back to the tent, and while they were coming back at different intervals, they were found. So one was like 100 meters, one was like 600 meters, the other one was like 350 meters away from the fucking tent. So it looked like they had ventured out and came back, but they had split up. Now, the reason being that all of these people, or that it was important to talk about like the expertise and the fact that they were all, number 1, peers. Number 2, they had all attended the same, college of sorts. And number 3, the fact that they were all these grade 2 hikers, okay, on their way to becoming, and like after this little excursion, they would have got their grade 3.
Right.
So 190 miles that they have to traverse. After this, which was, I think, less than 10 miles, after this last 10 miles, they would have become grade 3 and like certified like fucking explorers, like Bear Grylls to the extreme, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And they split up. So you're in a life or death situation. You're all gonna die of hypothermia. For some reason, you cut your way out of your tent, and then you split up.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I mean, the last thing I would do is probably split up.
Yeah, that's not what you're doing in a situation like that.
And then the fact that everybody walked away calmly.
Yep.
Nobody took off running. Nobody fucking tripped over anything. Nobody. And then I would almost buy the avalanche thing, but only based on the injuries, like because there wasn't a significant soft tissue damage, so it's more of like a pressing kind of
yeah, that's
injury,
fair.
you know what I mean, like a crushing kind of thing. So that I would be like, oh, avalanche for sure, but there's no other evidence of an avalanche.
Right, none whatsoever.
The tent's not collapsed over, certainly. The fucking nobody ran out. None of the tracks were buried.
And you don't have to
And-
cut your way out of a tent for an avalanche. You can go out the fucking door. If you got time to cut a hole, you got time to walk out the fucking door.
For sure. Now, my other question is this. Why didn't you, like, okay, so it's freezing as shit, right? And I get that. Okay. Hypothermia is going to set in. Now, I'm not saying that I know everything, but I would at least think if you kept moving, now, even if it's freezing fucking cold, if you keep moving, you have to know, like in those temperatures, especially if you're experienced, you got to know your fucking feet are gone, your fingers are gone, like gone. You're done. You're gonna be a nub for the rest of your fucking life. But if you keep moving, then there's a chance that you're gonna live. Or if you guys all huddle together, there's a chance that you're gonna live.
In those temperatures, given the clothing that they're wearing, it would have prolonged it, but literally only by minutes.
Big cuddle fest.
Yeah, no, probably not.
Orgy.
Not at those temperatures.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Your ass would be frozen, but I don't.
Your ass.
But the fact that you have access to warmer clothing, you have access to food.
Yeah,
I mean,
to me, it all comes down to the tent was right there. And if it did not get buried in an avalanche, it was still right there.
so then why?
Fucked if I know.
So Jake,
Ah,
thoughts?
I definitely have to go with Benjamin and you, I guess. With first off, if there was an avalanche, it would have done significantly more damage on the tent. Like the tent would be way far away. No matter how deep you stake it, an avalanche is quite a natural force.
Compelling one.
Quite compelling. Um, for just ribs broken, an avalanche, if you're caught in the middle of an avalanche, you're going to break a whole lot more, especially with the downward force that they were talking about. It's going to crush you.
But you would think if you're going to get hit with that kind of shit, it's going to carry you much further away.
Not necessarily. If it's a downward force, then you could be buried right there, but you would be buried. It takes some people who have been caught in avalanches haven't been found yet. You might never be found. Like take South Park. Cartman, he goes into an avalanche, he gets found 1,000 years in the future.
Okay. Well, all Cartman shit aside, even when these bodies were found, it wasn't so they weren't covered by a significant amount of snow. I think it was something like maybe 6 inches or a foot, but that's
Yeah, it was just enough to cover him up.
yeah, it was, and that was like 6 months after the fact.
Right.
So to me, it just seems, and then there's even a crazier theory is that two of the hikers were possibly working with KGB, and they were supposed to rendezvous with American Secret Service up at the top of the mountain and trade over some nuclear secrets and all this other shit in order to photograph secrets from the United States. So that in that theory, what happened was the United States figured out, of course, that it was some sort of treasonous shit, and then they were like, "Fuck it, you're all dead."
But none of them had a bullet hole.
None of them had a bullet hole, but the reason that they bring up, well, maybe it was military related. One of the theories was that the United States had been testing flash bombs, or like I think that's what it was called. No, not a concussion grenade. It's something that you drop from a plane and it's supposed to explode above the surface, creating a flash, causing a panic, like basically discombobulating people. But since they were at a higher elevation, it went off closer to the mountain, which says, okay, maybe this is how these people got these injuries. And it caused such confusion that they basically lost their senses, got lost, probably blinded and all this other shit, and ended up dying. That's so that's one of the theories.
But none of that explains why they came out of the tent in the first place.
Fair.
And then if you take that and you say, oh, well, the military made them leave the tent, again, door, motherfuckers. You don't got to cut your way out of that.
Also, oh, I forgot. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. Also, even back then, I'm assuming they did autopsies to figure out all the broken bones and shit. That significant of a type of explosion that's gonna discombobulate you, blind you, deafen you, you're gonna have that damage found in an autopsy.
So a lot of the autopsy stuff is like, and I mean, if you want to look at it, I'll send you the link, and it is fucking 10 pages worth of shit, and it's literally listing out all of these injuries, and like I read, the skin appears to be a brown purplish color. There's also parts in the autopsies where they're talking about the skin on tops of their hands on some of them were burned. That, like I said, the dude whose skull was fractured. Well, one of them had like a fracture in his skull, but that wasn't the cause of death. They were like, this would not have caused his death. He died of hypothermia. Kind of like He was driving the car. He got into an accident, but he had COVID, so it was COVID. Same basic principle. But the other people, the ones that had died from the trauma to their chest, like it's a fuckload of broken ribs. Like it's basically like all your fucking ribs are broken.
Yeah, that's fucking weird. Like a fractured skull, you can honestly do that if you fall and you don't even know about it. Like your head hurts for a while, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But all them busted ribs, that's fucking weird.
That and the other fractured skull, the one that actually caused the death, was not a fractured skull. It was like
A caved in fucking skull.
yeah, his all of this shit on the right side of his head was crushed. And on that same individual, it looked like his neck had been broken. So, and that was one of the things where they were talking about Secret Service from Russia's side. So they were like, well, Secret Service likes to, kill in this fashion. But really? So you're going to leave 4 of them to sit there and fend for themselves underneath the tree. You're going to kill one of these dudes. And then, yeah, like you said, the other ones, internal, well, not internal, but like a force equivalent to being hit by a fucking car.
Yeah.
So there's no Bigfoot theory that you have about this.
I mean, unless you want to go with he was standing up at a higher elevation where his tracks got covered by snow, and the ones that got taken out was because he just yucked a big ass fucking rock at him. No, not really. Why do you leave your tent if it's a Bigfoot?
Strange noises.
You should.
Why would you leave it calmly?
You sure as fuck ain't safer outside than you are in.
Why would you leave calmly if it was a Bigfoot?
Yeah. So I guess what it boils down to is this. The reason that I find this one so interesting is because there's that mystery there. There's this is what happened. We're all saying, this is a tragic fucking thing. And then when you start looking into it, you're like, okay, hypothermia, hit by a fucking car, skulls caved in, eyes are missing, tongues are missing, eyebrows are missing, and yet none of them are suffering like some of them had abrasions that were equivalent to like tripping, falling, things of that nature, but nothing significant, which would have, caused the death. And so there was I think the reason that I ended up looking into this in the first place is because I had watched a movie at one point. I can't remember what the name of it. So it was basically these people who were hiking up a mountain and they kept seeing strange things. They would see like somebody walking or whatever. And at first, like you're thinking, oh my God, they're being stalked by creatures. And it was the same shit. In the middle of the night, they got into a panic. They fucking left their tents. And a couple of them got killed off by these fucking creatures. The other ones made it to the top of the mountain, jumped into this fucking place, and saw that there was like this strange fucking go back in time fucking warp thing that and like it was like that one thing from Harry Potter where they go back in time and they try to save the fucking hippogriff or whatever it was. And like that's how it was. And the dude realizes that he saw himself and that now these creatures were coming to kill him and all this other crazy shit. And I was like, wow, that'd be a fucking crazy thing. And then I researched this thing and I was like, holy fuck, this is a lot stranger than, the fucking movie was.
Yeah, honestly, it is because none of it makes fucking sense.
Not a damn bit.
None of it adds up.
All the diaries and stuff, you can track it from the time that they left their last little base camp all the way up until they got to their last base camp. And like they even report, hey, listen, we went up here, we're camping here at this side of the fucking pass. The reason that we're doing this is because weather started getting worse, whatever. We didn't go back down here. Now, like other people are like, well, and like one of the dudes said, the reason that we think that they built their tent up here rather than go back down and try to be protected by the weather was because he wanted to test, like he just wanted to practice, making a tent and maintaining a base camp in this condition. So it was more or less like he was like, "Ah, fuck it, we're gonna practice this. This is something that we need to know.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna knock it out." So that means that the weather was not too concerning. And number two, like if you have like experience like that, or if you are a hiker of any professional grade or anything, or you have a lot of mountain climbing experience, if there's any sign of a fucking avalanche or like any scenario in which an avalanche could occur, you're not gonna camp there.
Yeah, yeah. You know what seasons those happen and what topography they happen in.
So you're not gonna go. It's like I'm gonna set my tent up right here in the middle of I-66. Looks like a good spot. Nothing should go wrong. Oh, there's a semi. We're done.
Right.
So I'm at a loss on this thing just because it's fucking crazy to me. I mean, I would love to say that the tribes people were like, fuck it. Let's do a little bit of voodoo on them, unleash a fucking grizzly demon on them. But the natural cause of death for the four of them versus the other cause of death for the other ones, it's kind of beyond me.
Yep. Same.
Jacob.
You're right. So I like aliens, and that's going to be my theory on this one. Aliens, and all the stories we've done, all the stories I've heard, they have outrageous amounts of technological advance on us.
Mm.
So maybe they want to test some hair follicles, cue the eyebrows. Maybe they want to test what our eyeballs do. Maybe there's some aliens without eyeballs. Maybe they want to use our taste receptors, tongue. But they have the technology to probably confuse the shit out of someone to where they're like, hey, let's go out of the tent, look at these weird lights in the sky, and all of them become discombobulated to some sort of fact from alien rays, whether it's radioactive or not, and they just like wander off. Or maybe they don't even feel the cold. Maybe the aliens did that to them, where instead of cold and like scared, it's more like euphoric. They just want to be outside, make it easier for the aliens to harvest, do whatever.
Alien shroom ray.
The alien shroom ray.
That's right.
I mean, I'll say this about your theory. Makes as much sense as any other one I got. Honestly.
So the Bigfoot one wouldn't make sense to me because you see a Bigfoot, you're going to panic. Not all of us can be Mr. Osman.
Right.
The avalanche, I think there would be significantly more damage to the people and to their equipment. Military, I think you'd be finding some bullet holes. What else was there?
So there was the infrasonic panic.
So satanic panic didn't happen until later.
Okay, so I'll cover this real quick. Infrasound is a very low frequency that you cannot hear that has been shown to be able to cause feelings of anxiousness and nervousness and discomfort. However, those same studies also show that it only affects about 23% of people. So if you have 9 people in that tent,
2 to 3 of them.
Okay. Well, my theory is this. For me, I think it's some sort of, I don't want to say garden moves, and I don't want to say like mass hysteria, but I think that there was something that occurred that made them fucking crazy. Something happened up there that made them go against their better senses, walk calmly out of a tent after they had cut it open, walk calmly out of a tent, and then just go to perish. What happened to the ones with the massive fucking chest trauma, I do not know. but I don't know whether they went and frolicked and like fucking threw themselves at trees. I don't know what happened, but I think that it had to have been some sort of mental anomaly that happened. Anomaly, is that the right word? Something fucking strange happened to where they were just like, fuck it, we're gonna go outside, become one with nature. I don't see evidence of them being attacked. I don't see evidence of an avalanche. I almost kind of agree with their some sort of what was it? Phenomenal.
Unknown compelling force.
Yes, some sort of compelling natural force. Like, I don't know if it's like a Bermuda Triangle type thing to where crazy shit happened and they were just like la 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 la. But I think they went out on their own accord and they died, I think, on their own accord.
Yeah. I'm sticking with I don't fucking know.
You're just gonna do a solid I don't know.
I don't know.
Ben,
Nothing makes
I
sense,
wanted
man.
to hear what you would have to say about this.
I cannot come up with a theory that I can't debunk, so.
Debunk the aliens.
Okay, there's one. All right, it's fucking aliens. Done did solved it.
So you're against the mental delusion one.
I don't believe that mass hysteria is a thing. Unless it was chemically induced, mass hysteria is not a thing. And if it was chemically induced, we could find that in an autopsy.
If they wanted you to find it.
No, okay, good point.
Well, if that's the case, then they could have been riddled with bullet holes, but they wanted to hide it.
Also a good
Bullet
point.
holes are a lot harder to cover up than drugs.
Depends on the drug.
So Ben is just a solid I don't know.
I'm a solid I don't fucking know. Or if you want me to put that in a more fancy way, unknown compelling force.
Unknown compelling force. I think that's the only thing that I got. I circle back to that and it's beyond me. I mean, I wish like a couple of them were like torn apart or something, or like something was a little bit more gruesome. But the tongue thing missing, the eyeball thing missing. To me, I'm like, I can fucking see that. I don't necessarily know if there were fucking ravens that were flying around.
Right.
I don't know if it spoke of the flesh being pecked away at what seemed to be an animal. I do think it's strange that they died of fucking hypothermia and the other ones did not die of hypothermia.
Yep. Unknown compelling force.
Unknown.
Aliens.
It's not aliens.
It's totally aliens. It's an open closed case. Effing aliens.
All right, I think that about wraps it up for tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. And Derek, thanks for coming on the show and driving this motherfucker for us. I actually kind of wanted to do this episode anyway, so I appreciate that.
What did you say?
I wanted to do this one. It was on my list.
Oh, was
so
it?
I appreciate that. Don't forget to share the show with a friend. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
Love you.
Say good night, Derek.
Good night.
Say your prayers.
Holy shit! Hey! Holy shit! Hey!
So this story is sent by Anonymous, and well, it's their experiences with the paranormal. Here it goes. So the whole thing happened when I moved to a town in West Virginia called Paw Paw. Not a very, very busy nor a very big town. Simple, small. My boyfriend, my daughter, and myself were moving into a 3-bedroom trailer in a trailer park down the street from the elementary school. At first, nothing abnormal happened, just an uneasy feeling. Moving in was easy, as we didn't have many belongings. My boyfriend and I took the master bedroom in the back that had a bathroom in it. On the other end of the trailer was 2 smaller bedrooms and a small bathroom. During the first week there, we were just unpacking boxes, trying to set stuff up, trying our best to make it feel like home. But I just kept having a really uneasy feeling. I was at odds with myself. I wanted to feel good about being there, being independent, and being on my own. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something weird there. When we first moved in, I had told my daughter that I was going to put her in the room with the blue walls. It was the closest to the living room. I had told her I didn't want to put her in the room with the at the very end of the trailer due to the large windows in the bench seat, due to being worried about her safety. This is when things seemed rather off. She would say weird things. She didn't want to be in her room. She didn't like her room, and she refused to be in there alone. Not typical of her, as she had been used to having her own room. We put her stuff in there anyways, but she wouldn't go in there unless my boyfriend or I would go with her. I didn't think much of it, just found it odd. She would beg me to switch rooms. She would spend most of her time in the living room with my boyfriend. He would notice odd things, but usually things you could find some off the wall way to explain logically. The TV shutting off, switching channels, minor things. Now, I work nights, so I didn't stay overnight here until the weekends. I would just nap during the day. The first night I had stayed there, I found it really hard to sleep. We heard footsteps in the hallway. I had figured it was my daughter wanting to sleep in my room because she didn't want to sleep in hers. When we got up to check on her, she was asleep in her room. I found this super odd and found it really hard to fall back asleep. I ended up staying for a few hours talking to my boyfriend. He had heard the footsteps too, and they were rather loud. I'm just kind of like, I know I heard footsteps. I know I did. Didn't make sense. I ended up leaving the hallway light that led to my room. One morning, I had went out on the porch to smoke. My daughter was standing inside the trailer looking at me through the glass of the screen door. She kept asking to come outside with me. I told her to stay in because it was cold outside. She was very insistent. Uh, within a few minutes of the barrier of the door between us, she became very hysterical. She started yelling at me through the door that she wanted to be outside with me and she couldn't stay inside by herself. I told her she was being silly, but I also noticed how very scared she was getting. She started to scream at me, "Mommy, get me out of here. I can't be in here by myself or the bad thing is going to get me." She started to bang on the glass and was crying and screaming at me. When I got up to let her out, she came running onto the porch. She says, "Mommy, don't ever leave me in there again." I explained to her that I wasn't leaving her. I was simply coming outside to have a smoke. That sh- that she shouldn't be outside in her pajamas because it was so cold. She says, "Mom, the bad thing was running down the hallway and almost got me." This was very concerning for me. I tell her that there is nothing in the house. She says, "Yes, Mommy, there is. You just don't see it." There are several other instances that she made these type of comments about the bad thing. I tried to shrug the whole thing off. It wasn't making much sense to me at the time. I was trying my best to rationalize the situation or ignore it, I guess. Later that same day, I had asked my boyfriend if he noticed anything unusual while being home, other than the overwhelming feeling of not wanting to be there. This is something we could both agree on. The entire neighborhood seemed strange. There were several trailers there, the cars at nearly every one of them, but we never saw other people. Yes, I work nights, but I was also in and out at all different times of the day. We only ever saw one other person in the neighborhood at all. My neighbor on the right side. She had asked my boyfriend for help with a vehicle once. That is the only time we ever saw anyone that lived in the neighborhood other than each other. All the windows were either covered with blinds, curtains, or duct tape and cardboard. I thought that was the most peculiar thing. Other people live here, yet we never see anyone in or out at all. Anyway, Between little obscure things happening and my daughter's complete emotional breakdown, still outside of her normal behavior, I just felt uncomfortable. There were many times there where my daughter would make the weirdest comments. There were several times she would be playing outside or playing in the spare bedroom and would be talking. When I asked her who she was talking to, she would say a little boy. I asked her if it was her imaginary friend. She says, "No, mommy, he's not imaginary." So I ask her, "Why can't I see him?" She says, "I don't know, mommy, he's right there," and would point in the corner of the room or the other side of the yard. Well, one of these times she had said she was playing with him. I had asked her to describe him to me. This is what really freaked me out. Again, my daughter is 4 or 5 at this point. She says, "He's gone, mommy." I say, "What do you mean gone?" She says, "You know, when you're here but you're not really here." I ask her what she means. She says she doesn't know how to describe it, but she says he only has half a head. Of course, I ask her what this means. She says it means the other half is gone. So I tell her, "You can't live without half of your head." She says, "Well, yeah, mommy, that's why he's gone." So I ask her if she means he is dead. She says, "Yeah, kind of. Like, he doesn't really have his body anymore, but he's here." So naturally, I'm freaked out. I ask her if she has been watching any scary movies lately with Daddy because he is a horror buff. She says, "No, mommy, he's not on the TV. He comes into my room and talks to me, at least for a little while, unless the bad thing comes looking for him. Then he has to hide or leave." So after a few of these conversations with my daughter, I'm getting to the point where I start talking to my boyfriend about leaving the trailer. There were too many strange things that happened. Weird words or images on the window, getting out of the shower. My daughter would wake up screaming in the middle of the night with nightmares nearly every night. But I was still trying to make the best of it. We really didn't have the money to up and move again since we had basically just moved into this place. I had tried to call the internet company. I was thinking maybe if we could get some internet and a little bit of connection with the outside world, maybe things wouldn't seem so bad. And I would get cable so my daughter and my boyfriend weren't stuck watching DVDs all the time. Well, when I called the company, they had asked me for my address. I gave it to them. They tell me they can't verify the address. They ask me if I have given all the details correctly. I say yes, but they say we only have 224 and 226 on file, but not 225. So I explained to them that 225 is between those two trailers. So they continue to tell me that they can't pull it up in their system. They tell me that someone is going to have to drive out and verify the physical address and that someone would call me back within a few days. Okay, odd, but whatever. Well, a week goes by and still no word from the internet company, so I call them back and ask if they had sent anyone to verify my address. The guy asked me if I was joking. At this point, I am seriously concerned. I ask why he would think I was joking, and I explained that I had called the week prior to set up service. He proceeds to tell me that someone, in fact, did drive out to the address that I gave and that it was an empty lot. So I tell him it is, in fact, not an empty lot. There is a trailer here, and I live here. He proceeds to argue, get hostile, and eventually hangs up the phone. Extra weird on top of the other happenings. So again, I go back to my daughter playing and talking in the living room while I was trying to cook dinner. I ask her if she is playing with the little boy she talks about all the time. She says, "No, mommy. This time I am playing with my big sister." This comment made my blood run cold and all the hair on my body stand up straight. So I ask her to repeat what she says. Again, she says, "I'm playing with my big sister. She's gone too, just like the little boy. But she doesn't look the same. She looks normal, but she's gone." These comments make me sick to my stomach due to the fact that I had a miscarriage a year before I had my daughter. I've never told my daughter this or ever said it around her. It isn't something I talk about often or that many people know about. So to hear those words come from my child freaked me out. I had called up a friend that likes to mess around in spiritual stuff and all that. I explained to her that some of the weird things that are going on, some of the things that my daughter had been saying and doing, sleepwalking, screaming in her sleep, playing with the gone people, and tales of the bad thing, footsteps in the hallway and such. She says she will come over for dinner one evening and we can try to figure out what's going on or clear some things up. So she, her mother, her boyfriend, her 2 kids, and her sister come over for dinner. I talked to her for a while. In the living room, we have dinner. Sit on the porch, smoke cigarettes, and BS for a while. So she asked me where I feel the biggest shift of emotion inside the trailer. For my daughter, it's always been her bedroom. She doesn't want to be in there alone. She refuses to be in a different room. She refuses to be in a different room in the trailer than me when she is awake. She has to be in the bathroom with me when I shower at this point, and every night I leave for work, she tells me she doesn't want me to leave because she is afraid of the bad thing going to get her and daddy. So my friend goes back to the room looking around. She went to get a jacket out of my closet. I am in the living room at this point, but I notice she has been gone for quite some time, which is strange. So I go into my room to find my closet door closed. The door won't open. The door was locked. The door wasn't locked. The knob would turn, but the door just wouldn't open. She starts banging on the door from the inside. Once again, I am freaking out. Mm. Once again, I am freaking out. I go out and get my boyfriend, explaining that she was stuck in the closet and we couldn't get the door open. After what seems like forever of trying to pull this door open, my boyfriend pulls at the handle again, and this time it opens. She came out and she was completely pale. She says we need to go outside. So we walk out on the porch. Her breathing is super heavy. I ask her if she's okay. She says, hell no, lifts up the sleeves of her shirt, and she has scratches all over her arms, back, shoulders, and stomach. She is nearly in tears. I'm losing it, trying our best for the kids not to overhear the conversation. So at this point, she tells me I need to leave, that our presence is pissing it off. I say, pissing what off? She says, I'm not sure what to tell you, but I can tell it's angry and we all need to leave. I tell her it's like 6 in the evening. We can't just get up and leave. She says to me at this point, she's not going back in the house, and she suggests that I don't either. So my boyfriend, my daughter, and I go home with her for a few days. While at her house, my boyfriend and I discuss everything and decide. Uh, sorry. While at her house, my boyfriend and I discuss everything and decide that we just can't handle being in the trailer anymore. So I tell him I have to set up a day I can get off work and we will go during the day and get our stuff. Everything everything seemed normal when we got back, but I wasn't trying to cause anything. I just wanted to get our things and leave. The first place we went to pack was my bathroom. I take everything out but my boyfriend's things. He wanted to grab a shower before we headed down the road. My daughter stayed in the living room with some toys. I make one trip to the car and come back, and my closet door was open. I shut it, take another load of stuff to the car. I come back, and the bathroom door was open. Weird, I thought I had just shut that too. I make another trip and come back into my room to find the bathroom door open again. So I ask my boyfriend if he had been in there. He says, "No, I've been in the living room the entire time. I haven't even went back there at all." So at this point, I shut the door and slide the lock from the outside. Always thought it was weird that there was a lock on the outside of the bathroom, but useful at this point. I take some more things to the car and come back into the room, and the bathroom door is wide open. I'm losing my shit at this point. I explain to my boyfriend I just can't handle going back there anymore and ask if he can finish packing up our room. He finishes taking our things from the bedroom and the other things from my daughter's room to the car. I go to clean out my daughter's bathroom and come out to the kitchen for a drink. All the cabinet doors are open. We didn't leave them open. So at this point, I'm crying and freaking out. I keep telling myself, I keep telling my boyfriend I just want to leave. He says as soon as we get our things, we will leave and not come back. We get most of the heavy and bulky stuff packed up, and he wants to take his shower. I go to pack his shower stuff and see the words "Fear Me" on the wall in his shower gel. I tell him he's not funny and he's a jerk for trying to mess with me like that when he already knows I'm freaking out. He tells me calmly that he didn't do it. I tell him we need to leave. Now, he tells he tells me to take my daughter outside and stay by the truck. When I walked out, I noticed that the Lord's Prayer I had in a frame on the wall was now on the floor. I wasn't sure how it fell off the wall, but I hang it back up. Then I go to the porch and watch my daughter play in the yard. He makes another trip out and I lock the door. We had it held up for him to be able to go back inside and clean out and come out easier. The frame with the Lord's Prayer was on the floor yet again, and this time the glass was shattered. Okay, so now I'm going to leave it lay on the floor. I don't want to touch it again at this point. I tell my boyfriend to please hurry as best as he can because I need to get out of here. At this point, the Lord's Prayer paper is out of the frame and on the floor. I give him the keys to the trailer to leave on the counter for the landlord to pick up later. I go to shut the door and I see something crumbled on the floor. It was the Lord's Prayer paper, and it seemed to have smoke coming out of the top of it. I slam the door shut, take my daughter, and get in the truck. My boyfriend soon follows and gets in. I tell him we need to get the hell out of here. I'm not sure what is going on at this point, but I can't take it anymore. On the way back to Winchester, my daughter goes on about how she had been wanting to tell me all about the bad thing for a long time, but had told her that she told anyone about what she saw, the bad thing would happen to me, her and daddy. She was too scared to tell me before, but the entire hour-long trip, this kid went on and on about the bad thing, what the bad thing did and said. That it would watch her sleep and would tell her that it was going to take her from mommy. And that's it.